Hello, everybody. Today is Monday, August 17th, 2026. In today's national forecast and potentially tropical discussion, we'll be going over those El Nino patterns for you guys, as well as lately now tropical storm LaLa, who just hit south of those Hawaiian islands, and we'll be going into further detailed and tropical discussion. Okay, everybody, looking here at our Weather Nerds model, we are looking at the east side. It's an ensemble. Um, so obviously we have a low just moving off to that north of the North Atlantic. A potential tropical wave moving off that west coast of Africa, and this is just based off of one model. Please take note of that. And if anything were to develop, as we see here, it is most likely to go out to sea, as well as much of these other systems. But if this other one down here on the south does develop, or even gets just as much as watched, it could move into the Caribbean. And if it does, that shear is high. It will control and it will hold on to any prevention of tropical systems taking place in the Atlantic, as we are currently seeing knots up to 50 miles an hour. Those counter winds are absolutely insane, will not allow any chance for tropical development, and that's why we saw Invest 92 and 94L not develop. And I went into emphasis on that was a possibility at the time, and it actually happened. Now, could we see any possible development? Potentially in the main development region, is a United States, continental United States landfall possible? Yeah, I don't doubt it, but I'm also not all for it as of right now because really just this upper level wind shear is just absolutely eating up any tropical development that tries to adhere in the Atlantic. So that's why we are so, on top of the fact that, we need to pay attention to the tropics, but they aren't necessarily a priority as of right now. Okay, everybody, looking here at our GFS model, it is also agreeing that this tropical wave off of West Africa could develop, and this is our most confident model in development for this potential tropical wave. So, yes, we will be watching this fairly closely as it does, as a few members do have it a little bit closer to the continental U.S. and the Bahamas and areas like that. Because obviously tropical weather patterns and steering patterns have been pretty unpredictable. Um, this hurricane season, so that is really what we are making sure we are watching. So, really, we are going to be paying attention to this tropical wave in case of any development or anything of that nature. And then, obviously, you have just a low dispersing off to the north into the open Atlantic. But that is all we really have for the GFS and any other models tonight. Okay, everybody, looking here at our eSense model, it's not giving up on the idea that that tropical wave is going to be coming off of that West Africa coast. Now, could we see them put somewhat of a mark on it? Potentially. I wouldn't be surprised, but if anything does develop as of right now, I only see it going out to sea, and that is because our Bermuda High has shifted back west as that high over Florida is beginning to fade away a little bit slowly, but it is still having some effect on our Bermuda High, sort of pushing it back east. So that's why we still can pay attention to these systems because we have a reason if something does make it just north of the Caribbean. Because as of right now, let me say this. So if stuff, if anything tropical were to develop in the main development region, here's what we're watching. We are watching right in this spot, right here, around give or take 100 miles north of Puerto Rico, and generally where the Bermuda High would be. If it can stay out of the Caribbean, development will become more and more likely because that's not where the upper level shears is strong. because you have that Bermuda high sort of pushing that shear out. It disperses it. So we, if we're gonna watch anywhere this season, we're gonna want to watch the northern part of our of Hispaniola and these islands, as well as maybe the east coast of Florida and um maybe even the Bahamas. So that is really the spots I will be watching the most. Although I will say the Carolinas, um, as well as Bermuda, because Bermuda is at the largest tropical threat this season, solely due to the fact that these islands down here aren't as at risk. Now, I will say the U.S. Virgin Islands and areas like that, they will face a tropical risk solely due to the fact that this shear is, it's like this. It's like, it's moving off to the north. We'll say the west northwest is how that shear sort of is. Like we have some stronger shear, just central Atlantic, right? And then we have our strongest shear as of right now in the Caribbean. So that is what we are really watching the most is that shear pattern because if we get that shear pattern to slow down, then we will really want to watch the Caribbean because that's what's really slowing down any um development as of right now. All right, everybody, looking here at our shear map for the Caribbean and um the main development region. Obviously, completely preventing anything other than I will say um off here to the northeast of South America, we are seeing a little bit lower shear. So if that wave were to manage to move its way into this area, maybe we could see a tropical depression out of it. Not enough time really to develop down here into a hurricane. As this is also where another countering factor comes in. This is where some of those cooler waters sit in the Atlantic as of right now. Because that El Nino pattern has really just slowed it down for any heating. Uh, just out here off this northeast coast of South America. Now here's the thing with the Caribbean: the waters are considerably warm for this time of year, and they're warming a little faster than anticipated. So, we did see those name storm possibilities go up a little bit, and we are just not gonna see much through the Caribbean, and as I said, just north of that main development region, solely due to the fact that this wind shear just it isn't letting up really at all. So that's why we're fairly confident that we really won't see horribly much impacting the continental U.S., but obviously that possibility to the islands. Oh, all right, everybody, looking here at our wide Atlantic, we are seeing obviously some pretty explosive convection coming off of that West Africa coast, which is that wave I was mentioning just a couple seconds ago. We really are going to be paying for a fair amount of attention to this. But as you can see, these steering patterns are just taking anything and just shooting them. I mean, shooting them north with no risk to the continental U.S. Now, obviously, you can see, I think that's that high there, really not allowing anything to move east or west. I apologize, west, and it's all just sort of it's all pushing east. So that's why we have no tropical threat as of right now to the United States. Now, could we see some maybe mid to late September potentially, but that's about it. And then going into October, could. Okay. Because that's, although that is when we are, around the time we are expecting that El Nino to peak out. So we could see sustainable shear patterns in 70 knots potentially out here in the Caribbean. And even just north of that main development region. So that's why we are really just confident that we won't see too much here in the continental United States. All right, everybody, looking here at our sea surface temperature anomaly. Obviously, we aren't watching out here in Asia, Australia, anything like that. No. We are watching off this west coast, the central west coast of South America. because that 1+2 region is absolutely explosive right now. And it's looking from just this model alone, we could be seeing those sea surface temperatures at around 4 degrees Celsius above average. Now, if that is the case, that is detrimental to these weather patterns. I mean, this will cause some potentially explosive weather throughout the southeast. Now, Florida, I will say, we might see some pretty strong squall lines throughout the winter. We could see my projection as of right now for the amount of strong squall lines we'll be seeing between 3 to 7. That's very broad, I know, but I think we could even see more than 7. I don't want to go and say that overly confident because I don't want to prepare you guys for some um devastating, catastrophic winter weather pattern because that just wouldn't be the most realistic. But I'm keeping it realistic as of right now as to those numbers. I just want to keep it broad because squall lines are very unpredictable. So that is what we could be seeing here in Florida and the rest of the southeast. And so obviously we're going to be seeing a very, very, very wet winter here in the deep south and the southeast. And so because of that, that's where we'll be getting most of your weather patterns from. So we could be seeing around 40 inches of rainfall here in Florida this upcoming winter. And then the south, plenty of it as well. Rough estimate around 35 to 45 inches, give or take. And then North Central California also going to be seeing some historic numbers out there for some rainfall and potentially a considerable amount of snowfall. Now, up here in the Midwest, we are likely to see a more drier winter, more gusty though. I don't have many doubts that it will be more gusty. And then out here, obviously in Southeast Asia, drought, catastrophic drought. That is what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to be dramatic. Historically, El Nino patterns, which we haven't seen any like this, but we've seen strong ones, right? We've seen the one in 1877 caused a beyond historic drought here in Southeast Asia, and that's why I'm calling this a historic drought possibility for Southeast Asia with that higher risk for wildfires. And then, like Cuba, the islands will be seeing a very, very hopefully drought busting winter as well. But that is all we really have for El Nino as of right now. Obviously, those waters are very warm. All right, everybody. Looking here at weather front, we do have a very, very active overnight across the country. Specifically, um, we'll say the Ohio Valley. We are seeing Northern Virginia with some severe thunderstorm watches. Uh, Tornado risk 20%, EF2 plus, low 5%. Now those 60 plus mile an hour winds, moderate at 60, 75 mile per hour winds at 10, and then hail 10, 2 plus, not likely at all. But a few rotation reports across Midwest here, and really just absolutely getting hammered by these high winds is West Virginia and let's see, southeastern Kentucky as well. And then mesoscale for the St. Louis area with a rotation report. Mesoscale for the just north of the Four Corners, but I mean not just north of Four Corners. I apologize. Um, you have eastern Colorado and western Kansas here, so with a mesoscale, unlikely that um anything too severe will blow up. But obviously here in Lamar, 60 mile an hour severe thunderstorm warning with some light hail. So that is what we're really watching, other than we do have one more severe thunderstorm watch up here in Scotts Bluff area. We are seeing uh, that hail and wind risk, and The tornado risk isn't completely out of the picture, but it's not likely. So we really are at most gonna see some pretty decent hail and some pretty fair, considerable winds there. But if we do want to take a look here, we can take a look at our temperature anomalies and our wind anomalies. Let me just find it for you guys. Actually, yeah, we will go over our convective outlook. So our convective outlook does have a slight risk overnight for Sterling, Cheyenne Wells, Lamar area, and just south of Scotts Bluff. Um, so obviously Colorado, Nebraska, a little bit of Kansas area, slight risk there. And then southern West Virginia, yes, we are seeing that severe risk carry through overnight into Richmond, Virginia area, and light in a very light eastern part of Kentucky. And then obviously for Monday, which is today, we are seeing Sioux Falls in a slight risk with tornado at a 2%, hail 15, wind 15. So everything is sort of in the picture right there. And then for Charlotte area, Knoxville area, we are seeing wind at a 15%. And that is all we really have for that area. Nothing more than that. Now could a potential brief touchdown happen for a tornado potentially just because it's severe thunderstorms and they can produce their own we'll say subspouts for tornadoes. So honestly, that is all we really do have as of right now. So other than we do have our temperature anomaly, and it is just staying so hot down here in the southwest. Phoenix 107, Blythe 109, Lake Havasu City 109. Not letting up. And then central to north central California, we're still remaining pretty warm. Mid 90s to low 90s. That includes Sacramento at 93, Redding 95, Fresno 96. It's staying pretty warm out there. So make sure to, wear neck towels if you're out and about. Just keep yourself cool. And then in Dallas, Wichita Falls, you're seeing up to 100 to 103 degrees. So very, very warm out there. But in the Midwest, it is cooling off, getting a bit of a break, as well as North and South Dakota, which needed it the most. Persistently getting hit by around 110 degrees this summer. Unforgiving temperatures. So it is really nice to see them that they get a break. And then going down here into Florida, we are seeing some pretty fair temperatures, all right? Seeing some pretty Florida temperatures for this time of year, although earlier we were seeing temperatures of around 102, so it was pretty hot. Milwaukee area 75, Detroit 79, and we're seeing them low 60s out there in the UP of Michigan to low 70s. So it's really nice. And then New England's getting themselves a little bit of a break throughout the day. 71 in Burlington, 64 Portland, 61 Bangor for Maine, and then Scranton, Pennsylvania, really nice, and then New York scene 68. Beautiful temperatures, guys. So very thankful that we get these temperatures that we do. And that is all we really have for weather front tonight. Not too active of a night, but we are seeing some severe weather. Alright, everybody, looking here at our model for Hawaii, and Tropical Storm LaLa, which was Hurricane LaLa, as it was hitting that southern part of the Big Island of Hawaii, is now just breezing over Kauai with some decent winds there, and then as it moves towards, as it trends west, it will begin to trend north northwest and re-intensify into a hurricane by Tuesday. So we could see it become high-end Cat 2 potentially as it uh breezes out to sea, but from there I see it weakening as those temperatures in that North Pacific area start to cool off a little bit more. It won't have as much to feed off of, and those trade winds will remain high in that North Pacific area as well on top of all of that. So that's why LaLa wasn't as big of a threat, and it didn't have catastrophic storm surge. Now, flash flooding, absolutely catastrophic. We were seeing around, I think it was 2.5, 3 feet of rain, but obviously Hawaii is a bunch of mountains and volcanoes, so it all sort of funnels through, and it'll go into those lower lying cities and flush them out, which is absolutely horrible, and I hate to hear and see what is happening as of right now with that flash flooding, and just hoping for the best for the Hawaiian people, as Tropical Storm LaLa has produced an intense amount of rain, especially for the Big Island. But that is all we have for right now, is a Tropical Storm LaLa. Alright, everybody, that's all I have for you today. I'm sorry I didn't have more. There's just not a crazy amount of stuff to talk about as of right now, and I have been very busy with schooling lately, so I will try to stay up to date with you guys, and I will try to remain fairly consistent on here, and I will try to keep you guys updated and informed. And I do, if you guys are ever questioning why it's taking a little minute for me to upload, I do give you guys those updates on YouTube Shorts. So if you guys are ever questioning, like, hey, he hasn't uploaded in a couple days, I'll update you guys as to why and when I will upload again. And I will try to remain consistent, as I said, and try to help you guys out, right? Try to keep you guys safe and ready for anything to potentially break out in the United States or just Southeast Asia area. So that's all I've really got for you guys tonight. If you guys did enjoy, please make sure to like and potentially subscribe if you did find this content informative, helpful, and life-saving. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. Will I will reply to as many comments as possible. If there's enough, I'll reply to all of them. So that's all I've got for you guys tonight. So make sure to be safe, stay informed, and have a good night. Weather Frontier, gone.